In today's video, we're going to show you how to measure and design a custom drive shaft that will work with any transmission and any rear end in any configuration. It sounds like a pretty straightforward process, but there's lots of little nuances that you got to kind of pay attention to if you want to get it just right. In our project, we're going to be making a 6L80E transmission to a Ford 8.8 rear end, but the principles still apply for any type of configuration that you may need. After we have our measurements, we're going to hand it off to the driveline shop, pick it up, install it in our 55 Chevy truck, and hopefully, move this thing for the first time in about 40 years. If you guys want to see that happen or not, stick around. What's up YouTube, and welcome to In the Shop TV. My name is Mike, and up in the air right here is my 1955 Chevy truck that we've been building for about 2 years. And for all you guys watching that have been here for a while, welcome back. Well guys, when we build hot rods and restore classics, it's kind of a long road, as you guys know, and we kind of hit certain milestones along the way that kind of give us the momentum that we need to keep going when things start to get kind of dragging on, feeling like you're never gonna get done with the project. The first milestone we hit was when we fired this engine up for the first time and heard it roar. It was a good feeling. We knew we had a running power plant for this truck, and I was happy about that, and it gave me that kind of fire and incentive to soldier on and push forward and keep going with this build when things get drab. Today is another milestone. There's a lot of projects that I've been neglecting. That 75 Corvette that belongs to my wife back there. I actually had my son and his friends came over the other day and started ripping out the interior, so we had some movement on that finally. But in order to start working on things like the Corvette and other projects that I want to do, I need to be able to take this truck and at least drive it out of the bay door so that I can put something else on the lift if need be. My property's kind of hilly and there's a slope leading out in my shop, so yeah, I could push the truck out of the shop or whatever, but I'd never get it back up that hill to get in here. So it needs to be able to move under its own power. And in this video, hopefully if I measure everything just right and get my drive shaft built just right, we're gonna be able to at least put this thing in gear and see it move forward and backward. I don't know if I'm gonna drive it out of the shop or anything today, but the last time this was a fully assembled truck and running was, from what I understand, was in the 1980s. So yeah, long time. It's about 40 years since this thing has moved under its own power, and I'm super excited. It's a big milestone. So without further ado, guys, let's get to it. All right, so here we are under the truck, and the first thing that we're gonna wanna do is just get some basic measurements. As I mentioned, we have a 6L80E transmission. You can see the tail shaft housing right there. Now the 6L80 comes in a couple different configurations. It comes with either a slip yoke, which is what ours is, where we have the yoke on the drive shaft that slips inside the tail housing, or they have a flange style, which I believe the Camaros have, but it's kind of a circular flange on it that kind of bolts up. Important information for you to have before you attempt this. So the first measurement you want is past this grease seal right here. This is the output shaft. You want to put your tape measure right up against the face of this output shaft. On the other side, here's our Ford 8.8. You want to put your tape measure up against the face of this flange and take the total measurement. On ours, we have 59 1/8. The next measurement you're going to want is your actual bolt pattern or distance between bolt holes. And you measure those diagonally. So for example, here's one full set of bolt holes. You're going to skip one each. That would be where the drive shaft mounts, in that position, or you would go here is another set, and that measurement for us is 4 1/4. That's a really important measurement that you're going to want to give your driveline shop, because there are a couple different options for the Ford 8.8 in terms of bolt pattern. And while I don't know the specifics for every single rear end out there, I'm pretty sure that you're going to run into that same type of concept for every rear end housing that you encounter. Now we're not quite done yet. There's 2 more dimensions that we really got to pay attention to if you want to get this right. And those are frame clearance and drive shaft diameter itself. Now, when it comes to measuring frame clearance, there's a couple different formulas or standards that people will want to use. However, I don't like to stick to those standards because every vehicle is different. For example, this truck is lowered pretty drastically, and we have a 4-link rear suspension. Our total suspension travel in the rear is 5 inches. However, that means 2.5 inches upwards and 2.5 inches downwards. Now, the likelihood that our suspension is ever going to fully compress 2.5 inches all the way downwards would be in the event of, like, you know, a pothole or something pretty catastrophic. But you do have to take into account your total suspension travel when you're trying to figure out what diameter drive shaft you need and what type of frame clearance you need also. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to suspension travel and frame clearance, the travel is going to be a lot more at the rear than where it is at that cross member. So I kind of came up with my own basic and somewhat boring way to measure frame clearance, but it works out really well. Let me show you. I mocked up a fake drive shaft with a piece of PVC and an adapter on the front. I make sure that the adapter is just big enough to fit over that output shaft. And then I make sure to use a piece of PVC that's oversized or wider than the actual drive shaft that I'm going to use to allow myself some cushion. For example, when we measure steel tube, we're measuring the outside diameter of the tube, but in PVC, we're measuring the inside diameter of the pipe. So this is a 3-inch piece of PVC. I'm planning on using either a 3-inch or a 2 3/4 inch drive shaft, but a 3-inch piece of PVC is actually 3.5 inches in total diameter. And as you guys can see, I barely have any clearance, maybe a 1/4 inch clearance
on both sides. Not much at all.
Now, if memory serves, I think the kind of industry standard is leaving yourself a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch clearance, which we do not have. However, again, we use an oversized piece of PVC, so our actual drive shaft, even if we use a 3-inch drive shaft, it's still gonna give us a little bit more clearance. So it'll probably leave us with a 1/2 inch drive shaft clearance. Which leads us to the last piece of the puzzle is what drive shaft diameter do you actually need? What diameter drive shaft do you need for your vehicle? Well, unfortunately, that's one question that I can't answer in this video because of individuality. There's so many of you guys out there with so many different configurations, so many different vehicles with different horsepower ratings, different torque ratings, different rear ends, different transmissions. There's just no way for me to dial that down. But what I would recommend that you do, there's tons of charts online where you have to pay attention to what's called the critical speed rating. The next stop would be your driveline shop. Get in touch with them. Give them your horsepower numbers, give them your rear end information, give them your gearing, give them your tire size, give them all that type of stuff. The total drive shaft length factors into that, the torque factors into that. It's all a one big calculation that it's just impossible for me to tell you what you need for your vehicle. Also, how you drive it makes a big difference. Now, I have about 364 horsepower here in this engine stock form. Nothing crazy, and I don't plan to really push this vehicle really hard. It's just gonna be a cruiser for me. So I can get by with a little bit of a smaller diameter drive shaft than somebody, even with the same exact vehicle that wants to drive it aggressively, could get away with. In my case, I'm gonna opt to go on the smaller side of things with a 2 3/4 inch drive shaft, just to make sure that I allow myself as much clearance as I possibly can. Because you know what, not having that drive shaft hit is way more important to me than being able to race this thing, which I'm not planning on doing anyway. All right, so it's time for me to take my measurements over to my local driveline shop and have them make me a custom drive shaft. Guys, here she is. We are back with our drive shaft from the good people at Carolina Driveline. So kind of a really cool process how they make these things. I don't know if you guys caught all that in the footage, but basically it all starts with our measurements. They'll usually start with your ends, meaning your pinion end and your transmission output shaft end. They'll measure those distances from face to face and then subtract from the total length that you provided them, and that's how long they actually cut the shaft itself. Now the shaft can consist of anything from DOM mild steel, which is what we're using, to aluminum, to carbon fiber, which is really light and really strong, also really expensive. I went with mild steel because I wanted to be able to use a little bit of a thicker wall than normal since we're going with a smaller diameter drive shaft. Aluminum, you tend to have to go with a larger drive shaft. They're lighter and plenty strong, which I like, but I didn't want to do that because of the larger size and the space constraints that I have in our vehicle. So we went with a 2 3/4 inch shaft in DOM mild steel. They'll then clean, deburr, and chamfer the ends of the tube before they start welding up the rear and front end pieces to it. Once it's all welded up, you'd think you're pretty much done from there, but that's when the real process begins. And that's kind of a painstaking back and forth process of making sure it's balanced and weighted just right and that there's no vibration in the shaft. Now there's different type of driveline companies out there that range from really big production units where everything is computerized, and there's smaller kind of mom and pop or local places that kind of rely on feel and experience of the people that are actually making the drive shafts. What I mean is when you're checking for vibration and you have the drive shaft mounted in each of one of those saddles on the balancing machine, an experienced tech will use his hands on top of those saddles and check for vibration. And there's always going to be some vibration that he feels initially. The process of getting rid of that vibration consists of adding weights. And you guys have been watching this channel for a long time know I always kind of crow about this, but whenever you weld metal, it really contracts and distorts and does all types of funny stuff to it. So they'll kind of reverse engineer that by placing heat onto the drive shaft in really critical locations. Again, that's where the experience comes into play, and that kind of straightens it out or brings things back to where they need to be. They'll heat it up, they'll then quench it by cooling it down, run it again, check it again, add weights, add heat, quench it, tap it. It's a painstaking process. It takes a little while to get it done, but it's really imperative they get that thing balanced just right. The last balancing stage where they actually put it in the balancing machine And it's kind of like tire balancing, right? They'll put it in there, it spins, and then there's a number that shows up that says what weight you need to add to it. So they'll tack weld the weight that corresponds with that number on the balancing machine and weld it in a kind of a strategic position. Run it through the balancer again, and by that time, you put your hands on top of those saddles and you cannot feel any vibration at all. You wouldn't even know the thing is spinning. That's how balanced and smooth it is. And make sure there's no run out on it, which is basically putting a dial indicator on the shaft and spinning it and seeing if there's any variance on that dial indicator. Usually at the two ends, they want no more than 5 thousandths, and in the middle, they want kind of no more than 10 thousandths. Believe it or not, it's never gonna be completely laser straight, but they wanna get it as close as they can, and those are acceptable specs. All right, enough of the classroom, let's get this thing in the truck. So the first thing I'm gonna do is gonna lightly lubricate the splines on the inside of the yoke. GM recommends this on 2-wheel drive applications, not on 4-wheel drive applications. You don't need to go crazy with grease in there, packing it in all full. Just a light coating will do. A brush might help you get down inside those splines and lubricate it even better. So I'm gonna just stick something in here to hold my place. Now my holes don't quite line up. I'm close, but I've got to rotate the rear end assembly about 1/2 inch, maybe 3/8. So we are perfectly lined up now. Gonna go ahead and put my wheel chocks back for safety. So I've got some bolts just started here, and I'm gonna go ahead and get a little bit of Loctite on the threads. Now that first one's going in nice and easy, and that's because I used a thread cleaner beforehand. A lot of these holes have some paint in it from when I redid the rear assembly, maybe a little bit of gunk or whatever. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean these out so we can get these threaded in nice and easy. I'll tell you what, this thread cleaner set that I have is probably the most used tool I have in this entire shop. Worth its weight in gold. There we go, effortless. Okay, so we got plenty of clearance here. We've got good almost 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches from the top of the shaft up to the top of the cross member. And my big old sausage fingers, about 3/4 of an inch here between side of the cross member loop and the shaft itself. So I'm pretty happy with that. We're even clearing our transmission cable by about 1 inch. All right, so I'm gonna lower the truck back down, and then we're gonna torque the bolts for the drive shaft once it's on the ground, because since we're on a 4-post lift, I don't wanna sit there and yank on it with a torque wrench. The Hayes manual calls for 83 foot-pounds on these. Well, I know to some of you that's just a simple drive shaft install, but to me, this is a pretty monumentous occasion. I mean, having something that just starts out as a frame and a shell and stripping it all down and starting from the beginning where it's just a frame sitting on 4 jack stands, I mean, this is a big deal to me, guys. But the real point of this video and of this whole channel is that hopefully some people learn something. If you came to YouTube looking for information on how to measure for your custom drive shaft, hopefully this will help you get to where you need to go. When we're building hot rods, there's tons of different configurations, from rear ends to transmissions to all that good stuff. Length of drive shaft, transmission tunnels, drive shaft hoops, clearance. You need to know all of it. And it gets even way more involved than what I went into. But hopefully this will get you close to where you need to go. Guys, we got a moving truck. I'm pretty psyched. I really appreciate each and every one of you hanging out with me. Do me a huge favor, guys. Smash that like button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and nothing helps this channel more than you guys hitting that like. I'd really appreciate it, man. If you don't mind, hook me up. Also, leave me a comment. I try to get to every single comment that gets left. And if you like this content, I'd love to have you here as a full-time subscriber. Consider hitting that subscribe button so you can get updated every time we upload a new video that has to do with this build, which is pretty much all the time. And as you can see, there's a lot more to come on this truck. Anyway, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you in the shop.